Why Alex Karaban's decision makes UConn a contender or a pretender. You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do me a quick favor, see that little button on the bottom of your screen. Click subscribe, helps our channel grow, helps our audience grow. And frankly, I truly appreciate all of your support. It's invaluable to me. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions may apply. We have the Athletics' Tobias Bass. Let's get him on now. There he is on today's episode, and wanted to ask him right off the bat, what would a decision of Alex Karaban to stay at UConn do for an already talented UConn squad?
I think it'd be huge. I think they're already top 4, top 5, and on paper best teams in the country right now. I think him coming back, we could slide them up a spot. I wouldn't even be against them being one.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it would do for them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think if he comes back, they're either 1 or 2 in the preseason poll. You mentioned on this show before that Jalen Stewart and Solo Ball could have the potential to be future pros. Why do you think some of the fan base isn't as sold on Solo as much as they are on Jalen?
I think it just might be a minutes thing. And him being a pro doesn't mean he's going to be a pro after this year. That might mean he might be a pro in 2 years. It could even be a 3rd year. So I think give him some time, but I do think he does have a chance to be a pro in the future. I think so.
Yeah, what do you say? Give me some advice, Tobias, to this fan base. That is like, well, what do you see? Like, what do you see that makes Solo a pro? And I've said a few things, right? Not only his reach. That's I think you called him Go Gadget Arms on this show one time.
Yeah,
he's got a 45-inch vertical leap. He's a plus shooter. In the one extended minutes against a big time program he had 13 points against Carolina at Madison Square Garden. Outside of that, if you're looking at Solo, what makes him the pro prospect? Maybe it's like you said, 1, 2, 3 years down the road.
So like you said, for one, we're just talking about just natural gifts, right? He has a 40+ inch vertical, 6'10" wingspan. So that right there, though, that's not many players, even in the league, they don't have that. That's one. 2, pedigree. Look at where he is. Look who he's playing with. What has Hurley done with players in the past? Like he's done a great job developing them over time and getting them better. And then 2, I think he knows how to play. He's always going to be in good situations. Again, just with the roster and the staff, they're going to put him in the situation to be successful. So I think that you get the talent matched with the fit and the coaching. That's how pros are. That's what pros are made. That's not even talking about, like, again, the 6'10" wingspan, 40+ inch vertical. If he's an average shooter, let's say he shoots 34.5%, just some number around there, you can make it 34, 35. And he shows he's able to read defenses, make open shots, and just defend. That's a pro. He doesn't have to be a lottery pick, but that's draftable. Especially with some of these drafts over the next year or 2, they might not be the best. There's someone has to go out of these 60 picks. Someone's got to go, and I think that he'll be a draftable player within the next 2 years.
Okay. Let's pivot it to the lineup itself. So we've talked about on this show before, you brought up a really great point about both the returning point guards and centers / power forward for UConn, Hassan Diarra and Samson Johnson, both of which were bench players, right? Hassan was the 6th man of the year. Samson coming off the bench for future lottery pick Donovan Clingan. So now people automatically kind of assume that they're going to ascend to the starting role. I'm going to anoint you. You're Dan Hurley for the day. Starting today, are you starting Hassan Diarra over your rookie point guard, Ahmad Noel? Are you starting Samson Johnson over Terrace Reed Jr.?
I'm going to start him over the freshman.
Okay.
I would personally do that. I mean, and Noel, he's a good player. I think he'll be another good player down the line. But just based on experience, we're trying to go, win 3 in a row. I'm gonna go with experience. He's played in literally the biggest games you could possibly play in, and he was effective. So for him, I'm gonna start Diarra for sure. Then Sampson, I think there's gonna be a war between those two, Charles Reed and Sampson. But just me personally, I'm probably gonna go Reed. He started before last year at a high
Yep.
major school. He was pretty good. I do think that he's a little bit naturally better, but on the flip side, Sampson has an advantage. He's been in the system a couple of years. He knows. So there's an advantage I think on both sides. I think it's gonna be who earns it. But for me personally, I think you're probably gonna start Tars and keep Sampson in his role because he was really good at his role last year. Come in, destroy everything, block shot, rebound, run the floor. He was really good in that role. I can see him even getting probably a few extra more minutes this year.
Yeah, no, that's great. I honestly think because they're so high on Ahmad that Haas potentially could not start, but I respect it. No matter what they do, no matter what they do with Ahmad Noel and Hassan Diarra, obviously with Dan Hurley, we trust it. One more kind of good problem to have. Like these are all great problems, and this is the reason why Dan Hurley and his staff are compensated so well. You bring in a guy like Liam McNeeley, who's got the pedigree to start anywhere in the country. But you have a guy like Jalen Stort who showed flashes this year, backed up Alex Karaban in a bunch of way. If Alex Karaban comes back and he's your power forward, he's entrenched, he's at the 4. Where does that leave Liam McNeeley? Is he starting over Jalen Stort, or do you feel like that's going to be a split minutes kind of situation there as well?
That's a good question. I think Stort's a really good player. I'm gonna have to start Liam. I think
Okay.
Liam's really really good. I just what he's just able to do from an offensive standpoint. Great feel for the game. Really really can shoot it. Pedigree, McDonald's, All American. Those guys they start because they're good enough when they get into the college program. It's a little bit different. That's nothing against Jalen at all. He's a good player. It's just bringing in who I think is going to be a pro in a year or two, and Liam. So I think those guys start as freshmen. But that doesn't mean Jalen's not going to play a significant role. I think he does that too.
Absolutely. No, it's like I said, it's a great problem to have. So right now, if you had it presently constituted with Alex Karaban coming back, your starters would be Hassan Diarra. Now, we didn't go over this. Are you starting Aiden Mahaney or are you starting Solo Ball at the 2?
Mahaney.
Okay. Yep.
Mahaney,
I think that's a consensus. I don't really think there's as much, back and forth with that or really kind of anybody arguing that. But it's also another good problem to have, right? You can slide in having a combo guard there. So we got Haas, Aiden, Liam McNeeley, Alex Karaban, and your center is Terrace Reed Jr., correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be. And even with Noel, like, is there a scenario? Again, he's a freshman. He's going to have to get used to the speed. And Noel's a good player. I think he's like top 35 in the country.
Yep.
Is there a scenario, game 15, that it's like, hey, he's really playing well? I could see the change because in DR, I don't even think he would. I think he's flexible in that. I think that like there would be no animosity if that was to happen. But I think as of today, he's just an older player. He's better at this present time. He's just better, and that's all. It's just the age.
Yeah, and I think that also leads to what Dan Hurley's asking these guys to do is like, you came in, you were a bench player, then became 6th man of the year. Now maybe taking that leap to being a starter and leading this team. So, and kind of being that bridge to Ahmad. So I'm with you there. I could, like I said, I can be convinced either way. So it's good to hear someone else's perspective. We'll get into talk of conference realignment and potential some Big East expansion. I floated some ideas yesterday. Let's get Tobias' take after this. Let me tell you about a recent experience with buying tickets. Ever have one of those frustrating moments when you're trying to snag tickets for an MLB game? I'm sure you have, whether it's uncertainty about seat quality, struggling to find last-minute tickets, or just not finding any good deals. But here's the game changer. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Seriously, this app makes getting tickets a breeze. Plus, the prices actually drop as GameTime approaches. It's like getting rewarded for procrastinating. I've been using GameTime for a while now, and let me tell you, it's life-altering. I can browse through upcoming Major League Baseball games and other hot events, snagging killer last-minute deals, and even double-checking your views from your seat before you buy. And the best part, you get all-in pricing with no hidden fees at checkout. So if you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, Tobias. Yesterday on my show, I talked about how the Big East needs to get creative if they want to survive this kind of super conference, injecting football into the mix, all of this different stuff. Because the Big East is, for lack of a better word, the last bastion of a college first or a basketball first college conference. So what are your first off, like, what are your thoughts on the long-term health of the Big East as a basketball first conference?
You said say it one more time.
Yeah, so like the Big East is truly the only
Yeah.
conference left that's basketball only. You know, there's some of the schools that have FCS schools. UConn has an independent football school.
Yeah.
Let's face it, no one's paying attention to Villanova football. We're not paying attention to UConn football. What do you like? What are your like thoughts on the long-term health of the Big East as a basketball first conference?
I mean, I like it. I mean, you've had UConn's won twice, Villanova won twice in the last decade.
Yep.
That's really impressive. I mean, I think we talked about on the last show I was on here. No one past Waco going west has won a championship in over 20 years. So that's and you have four of those like in the past 10. So I think the conference definitely can survive. I think adding a couple teams would definitely help. You know, I mean, I guess now geographically it doesn't matter anymore because you have, UCLA, USC, they're going to the Big Ten, and I guess
Right.
West Virginia's in the Big 12. So I guess that doesn't matter. But they add a couple teams. I think that would be kind of cool.
Do you think I floated the idea of, look, the Big East, let's get proactive. The ACC's in a lot of flux. You have teams trying to get out. You have Florida State pissed off they didn't get into the college football playoff, so they're trying to get out. What I proposed yesterday is, since I was a Northeast guy and moved down to Carolina, is essentially doing the Carolina package and saying, okay, we understand that North Carolina, Duke, and NC State have football programs that can compete with the SEC and all of that. Why don't you come play basketball in the Big East, and then all of the rest of your programs can be in the SEC? So give me Duke, give me Carolina, give me NC State. What are your thoughts?
That's not bad at all. I mean, you could add those three. I mean, just specifically Duke and Carolina. I mean, that's unbelievable. You're adding two blue bloods. You have UConn, who I think should be considered a blue blood. Now you have three of the 7, 8 blue bloods in one conference. I mean, that's a major sale. I would be down with that for sure.
I mean, and then the other thing is, and I know they're not a blue blood, but every single one of those ads has multiple national championships because NC State has 2.
Yep. Yeah, that's a lot. You could probably, and I feel like even the branding of it, you could probably say like, I think the Pac-12 was called with the Conference of Champions.
Yeah.
You obviously wouldn't take that. You couldn't take that slogan, but maybe we could kind of rework it, and that could be the Big East's new thing if you add those 3 schools in there.
How would we workshop that? The blue blood, Big East blue blood conference of I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'm sure they can get some people much smarter than me. They can probably get in there and kind of. I could just see some big giant banner at the Big East tournament with that on it, and that would be super marketable.
I mean, the thing that I love about it too is, I don't know how much time you've ever spent in the Northeast, like with Connecticut in that area. There are people walking around in Connecticut right now wearing Duke attire. There are people walking around wearing Carolina blue because, I'm wearing Carolina blue today just because. So like it's marketable, and there's been a pipeline of players, football and basketball, that have gone down south to play at NC State. So to me, it's a natural fit. Like the Connecticut North Carolina connection is more recent and more, actually through history than people even realize. So I think it's a natural fit. And then you also add a market of basketball crazed fan bases to back that up.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a great fit. Then, I keep bringing about the geographical thing, but it's close. It's not. It's not. It's
Yeah.
very. It's very close. So it's easier on the kids traveling wise. So I think it'd be a great fit.
I also feel like in college athletics as a whole, like there are other sports, right? Whether it's baseball, women's volleyball, like all this different stuff. Not every school needs to be, we're in one conference because it doesn't make sense anymore, the
Yeah.
way things are
Yeah.
aligned. So I just feel like if we get a little outside the box, now we talk about non-geographic, adding Gonzaga, adding St. Mary's. Now you're at 16 teams, and now you have a basketball super conference. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Yeah. Because I know like Gonzaga, they want to leave really bad anyway. I know they've
Yeah.
had talks with like the Big 12, but I mean, if you're gonna go play West Virginia, you easily could go play Villanova or UConn or whoever. It's the same thing. So I could definitely see that being a fit also.
For sure, man. Could you think of like I was trying to think of the other day, like what's another team that would make sense that maybe doesn't have like maybe even does have a great football program, because under this proposal, it doesn't matter. Like, what about like a Clemson? What about South Carolina? South Carolina's in the SEC, but like a Clemson team that made the Elite Eight this year, to potentially be in the Big East, and just kind of like, all right, you go play in your SEC Super Conference, and you come play basketball in the Big East.
I wonder, like some of those A10, like could you get one or two of those top A10 schools? So like Lower Chicago, they've been pretty good the last 8-9 years, and I think they
Yeah,
finished the season ranked. I wonder, could you poach a Dayton away? Could we do that? And they have a crazy fan base, basketball school. I wonder would that make sense?
that's a great one, and it made me think about. I mean, they have a rich history. Indiana State, going to the Missouri
Mm,
Valley and taking some of their top
good one,
programs. Indiana State,
good
Drake.
one.
So because I mean, you have Marquette and Creighton in the Big East as well. So you have that middle of the country, Midwest feel anyway, right? So why not add
Yeah,
to it? We're not caring about
yeah,
geography anymore.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, cool, man. Listen, maybe not you, but I wonder if you or any of the other viewers are watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day, have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Before we get to the third segment, transfer portal, start, bench, cut, I have to ask you: did you watch the Tom Brady roast over the weekend at all? Any clips?
I definitely watched a bunch of clips. It was I don't know if I could do a roast like someone roasting me, especially like they were. I mean, they were going
Going
at him
in,
hard
they were going in.
consistently, and I was like, I mean, so he took it like a pro. Shout out to him for that. But I wonder, like, what's the night after that? Like, you go home. How do you feel about yourself after something like that for a couple of hours, and everyone got to see it?
Yeah, I guess you would have to be the most accomplished football player of all time to not care,
It's
right?
fair. That's very
So,
fair. Very fair.
but I wanted to get your thoughts, and you answered the only question I was going to ask is, would you get roasted? And you said, I don't know if I could do that. So
Yeah.
well, especially not by professional comedians. I could get roasted by like a bunch of open micers because they're probably not going to be as funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get back to the program. We're going to talk transfer portal, start, bench, cut with Tobias Bass after this. All right, Monopoly Go. Here we go. Game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there is so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends where you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. And there's always new timed events that help you win big. The massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, go download it now for free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, we're back with the Athletics' Tobias Bass. Tobias, we've done a lot of transfer portal stuff, and this may not affect UConn on a regular basis, but we're going to have some fun today. We've already talked about UConn's lineup, Big East expansion. I wanted to do transfer portal. I've been calling it transfer portal bingo, but it's really not bingo. It's really start, bench, cut, right? So I'm going to give you 3 players versus transfer portal combat where you battle with 2 guys. You got to start one, bench one, and then unfortunately send someone on their way. The first one is very difficult, at least in my opinion. I would have a hard time with this one, so I'm going to preface it with that. They're all guards. Kadari Richmond, who just transferred to St. John's, Janelle Davis from Arkansas, and AJ Storr, Kansas. Start one, bench one, cut one. What you think?
I was not expecting that. That's hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start Janelle Davis.
Okay. Why?
I think that when he's playing the right way, I think he's one of the top 8 best players in the sport. Personally,
okay.
I think he's really that good when he's playing, when he's really on his game.
So we got Start and Janelle.
Yeah.
Who's on your bench? Who's his backup?
If these guys are my backup, we have a really good team then.
Yeah, you do, but you got to get rid of one too.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. This I want to go upside with AJ Storr because I think that AJ Storr is going to play in the NBA one day.
Of course, yeah.
I'm gonna go with AJ Storr, but that is nothing against Kadari. He's one of the best players in the country. There's nothing. I would cut some of my other guys to get Kadari Richmond, honestly, if I could. But in this scenario, he would probably be the one.
I love how you went rogue and were like, I don't want to cut anyone. These are my guys. No, but
yeah.
I would honestly, and then we'll get to another one that's not as hard, but I would go not the complete opposite, actually probably, but I'm starting Kadari Richmond, and the only reason why is because every single game Kadari Richmond has ever played against the Yukon Huskies, he has balled out. And I'm not talking like his normal 15 and 7. I'm talking 23 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Like the guy has been a Superman. So I'm not pissing Kadari off. You're with me.
Yeah.
I got Janelle on my bench, and unfortunately, just a volume shooter. I think you're right. I think he's going to be a great pro. AJ Storr is getting cut.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong either way.
Yeah. I think we're going to win a lot of games with either one of them. Either one of them.
Absolutely. I think that's a great problem to have. Okay, this one's not as hard. We got Norched Omir, who committed to Baylor, Dylan Mitchell, who has yet to commit, and Mark Mitchell went to K-State with Jeremy Tang. Start one, bench one, cut one.
Definitely start Norched easily.
Yep.
Then the last 2 is really just kind of based on. I'm gonna go upside again. I'm gonna go Mitchell. He's the production's been kind of weird.
Which one? They're both Mitchell. It's Dylan or Mark?
Dylan. I'm probably gonna go with Dylan. Just upside. I think Mark's probably been a little bit more productive, just a tad. But I just think that 6'7", 6'8", mega athlete. I feel like he would pop. I feel like he would pop with me. So I feel like I'm gonna go with Dylan.
I like it. I'm with you there. I like Mark Mitchell a lot. He was actually one of the guys at Duke that I really appreciate his game, but I don't know if Jeremy Tang's going to get him where he needs to go, but hopefully someone gets in his head that he doesn't need to be a shooter for him to be an effective player, because he's good at almost everything else. All right. So our next one is, these are all guards. We're going back to it. This one's a little tough, and don't let us being on a UConn show sway your your decision here. So we got Wooga Poplar, also one of my favorite names in the portal. Another great name, Kanan Carlisle, went to Indiana, and Aiden Mahaney. So those are your start one, bench one, cut one. Tough, but I think there's a clear path here, at least for me, and UConn fans.
So I've been watching Kanan maybe since like middle school.
Yep.
So he hasn't been as productive as those but I'm probably gonna start Kanan.
Okay.
Gonna start Kanan, and so Wooga, who I think has a chance to I think they both, Mahaney and Wooga, both have a chance to play in the NBA. If that's
tough.
Yeah, that's tough. I probably would go Mahaney but that would be very, very, very close.
Yeah, I think you're right
It's,
there. I wouldn't
yeah,
even. I'm not even going to play the homer here and say Aiden should start, but I wouldn't cut him because I feel like he does a lot. I feel like
yeah, yeah.
he's a more cerebral player. I think
I
Wu
agree.
is a better athlete. I think he's maybe slightly a better standstill shooter, but that's like splitting hairs.
Yeah,
So I'm with you on that. Okay, all right. Let's get to another fun one before we call it a day. This one is again all guards. Probably a little different. We got Zeke Mayo went to transfer to Kansas.
yeah.
Malik Mack transferred to Georgetown from Harvard, and then Tyrese
Mm.
Hunter now with the Memphis Flying Penny Hardaways.
Starting Mac, Zeke off the bench, cutting Tyrese Hunter.
Man, that was the quickest one. Why so fast?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see how Malik Mack, how he jumps. Even both of them, Zeke and Malik Mack. I want to see how they jump up from the level. I think Malik Mack, he's one of like the one of the more fun players in the sport. I really like his game. I think Zeke Mayo, he was what 20-5, 20
Yep.
and something like that. I think I like him. Hunter's been a good player, but the thing with him is he has to play on the ball. He cannot play off it. So if you've seen, that's why his numbers have gone down. When he was at Iowa State, he had the ball in his hand the whole time. That's why he was really
Yep.
good. Goes to
Okay.
Texas. Marcus Carr off the ball. He struggled. He met last year. Max Saban's off the ball. He's better, but wasn't as great as good as I thought he could be. So with that, I'm gonna go with those two.
Okay. We got time for one more because you went quick on that one. So I got Coleman Hawkins, Jonas Adu, who transferred to Arkansas, and JT Toppin.
You said 80 Toppin and who?
Coleman Hawkins, Jonas Adu, and JT Toppin.
Starting Adu.
Mm-hmm.
Then you said 80 Toppin. Who's the third guy? Okay, who's the third guy again?
You're good. Coleman Hawkins, Illinois. He's yet to transfer or yet to pick a school.
I really like Coleman. I like Coleman Hawkins. He's just so fun to me. I really like Coleman Hawkins. I'm probably Toppin probably has better upside, but for this, I'm gonna go Hawkins.
I'm with you on that too. I think there's talk down here in the Carolina world that Coleman Hawkins could come to Hubert Davis's squad, and I think that would be a great fit for them because he loves shooters and he loves guys who can get up and down the floor. So that makes a ton of sense in Carolina world. Well, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now, available on the free Fire TV channels app. Tobias, thanks for being here, man. Tell people where they can find you. I know we've done this before, but keep promoting all of your stuff at The Athletic. Let us know where we can obviously find you on your socials, and then we'll close out the show.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tobias_Bass. That's TOBIAS_Bass, like the fish. And you can follow my work at The Athletic. I'm going to probably be doing another story on what I'm hearing as this transfer portal season closes out. There's still a couple of good players left.
Yep.
I'm going to be doing pretty much kind of like a recap over what happened in my 5 to 7 teams who I think won the portal.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Tobias Bass, I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies.